This is Ambazonia Calling. News, analysis, commentary, opinion, editorials. Ambazonia Calling is a co-production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. Welcome. My name is Ntumfoyn, Herbert, and I bring revolutionary greetings from our studios in Washington, D.C. to all of you, friends of Ambazonia and fellow Ambazonians on Ground Zero and across the globe.
Conveners of the Ambazonia People's National Conference, APNC, in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, did not get all the love back in terms of attendance. This is Innocentia.
My name is Alex Mbianda. Join me in obtaining an injunction order on these IG people who've squandered all the monies meant to take care of our refugees and prosecute the war.
When $2 million ends up being swindled, financial truancy of that magnitude probably demands that the long arms of justice swing into action. This is Lambert Mom.
The IG was built on a colossal gangsterism, gigantic duplicity, and incessant treachery. This is Digimas.
Are Ambazonians trading slavery in La République du Cameroon for zombiehood in a yet-to-be-established country? This is Willibrod Ade.
Wake up, Ambazonians, or kiss your revolution goodbye. Criminals, masquerading as men of God, are either running your revolution for you Ambazonians, or are getting ready to Judas Iscariot or to Fonchamuna you to La République. This is Manton Jude Ambe.
We are again catching their IG with their hand in the cookie jar. This is the mechanic.
I am forever behind the Ambazonians, and I'm going to do my bit as a journalist in Ghana to ensure that Ambazonia becomes free and free forever. Viva Ambazonia!
Welcome again, and thank you for spending a part of your Sunday with us. We've got a lot to get through in this program, and as you know, that will be my first announcement. We are getting a smaller, thinner, leaner Ambazonia Calling program, obviously a product of the feedback we've heard from you. Those of you who wanted a 1 hour 30 minutes program, you're lost in this debate. Those who won are those who want a leaner, faster, shorter program, and so we will be honoring that beginning today. A 1 hour program in the business means 56 minutes of recording, end to end. With that said, we've got our business ahead of us. Let's get started with Lambert Mbom, who's got our editorial for the week.
Waste, mismanagement, and embezzlement. These are the hallmarks of the Ambazonian Revolution. Time wasted, money swindled, talent bypassed and sidelined. These are the obstacles we must overcome in order to save our revolution. Nobody should pretend that mistakes will not be made. All of us wish nothing had ever happened, but it has. Egregious mistakes have been made. No excuses are good enough. The revolution will not be error or mistake free. Yet, we cannot tolerate mistakes big enough to collapse our revolution and bring ruin to our people. One thing is clear, the status quo is untenable. What we have been doing so far is working, but not to the extent that we want, and definitely not fast enough to significantly limit the loss in human lives on Ground Zero. We must, therefore, ask hard and vexing questions, fight each other if need be, to ensure that we are doing the right thing by our revolution and by our people. There should be no sacred cows. Redemption should be possible for all, but it cannot be an excuse for not acting to end blunders. When $2 million ends up being swindled or used to ends other than the ones for which it was intended by our people who donated the money, there is cause for alarm. Financial truancy of that magnitude probably demands that the long arms of justice swing into action. The lesson that a court can teach anyone and any group involved with the mismanagement that has been unveiled will help Ambazonians design the institutions that are needed to ensure accountability and transparency in the future. We cannot allow that in the same freewheeling style a new crew impose itself upon our people. We certainly do not want Ambazonians to suffer any more at the hand of this crop of fake pastors and political conmen. Where were the people who owned the revolution when 3 pastors, none with any pedigree in the Ambazonian revolution, took over control of the so-called presidency, Homeland Security, and Communications Department of the IG Group? What do you think an external and independent audit would uncover if an internal one reveals that these 3 departments spent a combined total of over $700,000 or 350 million francs CFA, while Ground Zero got rubber guns instead of AK-47s? I don't want to be angry about what has happened because I feel more like crying than being angry. How would you want the revolution to succeed if success meant that you would deny yourself the funds with which you were paying your fictitious bills, your fancy TV expenses, your limousine travel, and more? Talk of your ears seeing your eyes. Ambazonians can either cry about the water gone past under the bridge, they can cry over spilled milk, or they can do the right thing. Rise and become both vanguards and watchdogs of the revolution, owned by all Ambazonians, not by any individuals or groups. This is Lambert Mbom for Ambazonia Calling.
What Cameroon has done to us, I want you never to forget. The pain they have brought to bear on this generation, I want you never to forget. Not out of hate, but so that the next generation will remember and make sure they do the things they are supposed to do, never to go through this again.
I will continue to play my part to ask the people of Southern Cameroon to take their revolution into their hands and continue the fight to liberate themselves.
I'm sorry to say, because of France's policies in Africa, in French Africa, the state of La République du Cameroon do not have any pressure on them to find a way to resolve this issue, because they are always thinking that no matter what happens, France will always be there to give them coverage.
Still ahead in this edition, we have The Devil Unmasked with Professor Emmanuel Tatamenta. We have a winner of the Nyamfaka of the Week. And we are not done until you have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling. In the course of every week, it is one of the most difficult jobs here at Ambazonia Calling to put together the summary of the news. What is important, what our people should retain, what history should put down in the history books. But the man who does that for us and has been doing a great job for the last 38 editions is Ntumfoyn.
The Federal Court, or the Federal High Court in Abuja, Nigeria, ruled that it was wrong. It was a violation of the rights of these individuals who already were granted refugee status. Some were already asylees in Nigeria, to have been kidnapped and forcefully transferred to Cameroon to be court-martialed.
Uncertainty and incredulity loom in the minds of Ambazonians and the international community are waiting to see if Cameroon implements an Abuja High Court ruling Friday demanding that Yaoundé return all 57 Ambazonians abducted from Nigeria early 2018. In addition to requesting their immediate return to Nigeria, the court is ordering damages to be paid in the amount of 5 million naira, about $14,000 each to the Naira 10, and less than $600 each to the Tarabat 47, all Ambazonians that Yaoundé abducted from Nigeria to its dungeons in La République du Cameroon. This Ghanaian activist joined many others who are lauding the decision by the Abuja High Court.
Indeed, I am in an ecstatic mood right now. Indeed, the decision reached by the High Court in Nigeria is the clearest indication that in the midst of crisis, justice can still prevail. This goes a long way to tell Africans that if we stay united and we stay strong and we have a direction and we believe in the cause of justice, justice will definitely come our way. I'm particularly confident that this decision is going to change the course of democracy in Cameroon. I am very, very excited, and I want to continually indicate my position, which is undoubtedly clear, that in any way, shape, or form, I am forever behind the Ambazonians, and I'm going to do my bit as a journalist, a well-respected one for that matter, in Ghana, to ensure that Ambazonia becomes free and free forever. So I'm very, very happy that we have secured this victory, and this is a victory that will go a long way into the history books to tell all Africans that if you believe in something and you stay the course and you fight for it, you will definitely win the fight. The battle will continue to be the Lord's, and we will ensure that whatever it is that we can do in a very little capacity to ensure that the people of Ambazonia are free and justice served. So congratulations to all comrades in Ambazonia. Congratulations to all those who posted and shared on social media, and to all those who prayed and solidarized with the people of Ambazonia, that this is just the beginning of better days to come. Viva Ambazonia!
Meantime, according to unconfirmed sources, the chief of missions at the Cameroon embassy in Abuja has reportedly received instructions from Yaoundé to lobby and convince Southern Cameroon's lawyers to withdraw the case between Ambazonian leaders and Nigeria from the African Court on Human and People's Rights in the Gambia. It would be recalled that it is the same court that ascertained in 2009 ruling in favor of Dr. Ngomne of Skapo versus La République du Cameroon that Southern Cameroonians effectively constitute a people different from those of colonial La République du Cameroon.
See from the beginning, what I start talk say Sako face don't change. And if face don't change, you don't start talk with money. When I look at say when I talk say it did not be the ever, their face not be the ever shine. When I don't see, when I don't hear now, Sako must go. Ambazonia will not stand up with people that they die.
Calls are growing louder. They are growing stronger as many Ambazonians begin demanding punishment for Samuel Sako and others within his cabinet who are guilty of embezzling hundreds of thousands of US dollars contributed by Ambazonians to help liberate homeland from the occupying Republic of Cameroon. According to a partial expense report reportedly leaked Thursday, over 90% of the budget ended up lining the pockets of the leadership of the Internet Government Group. The scandalous report also reveals that Samuel Sako and Echu Tabenyang, the group's acting interim president and finance secretary, respectively registered a corporation, Ambazonia Consulting, in 2017 to do ordinary business and stocks, allegedly buying Bitcoin cryptocurrency generously and losing just as much, yet receiving payments worth over 125,000 US dollars in 2018. It is noteworthy that Sisiko Ayuk Tabe and co were still free men and at the helm of the organization at the time, leaving one to wonder just how long Dr. Samuel Sako and Echu Tabenyang had been working on what and who else is involved. Strident voices calling for capital punishment say Ambazonia must set itself apart as a land where corruption and the corrupt go to die. Conveners of the Ambazonia People's National Conference, APNC, in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, did not get all the love back in terms of attendance. The impressive hall was largely filled with seats awaiting participants, even as the two-day deliberations wrapped up Friday night. Resolutions are still awaited, but John Iguayan, Secretary of Homeland Security for the self-styled interim government or internet government, said the low turnout was not only a rebuke of the organizers, it was an affirmation, in spite of the mismanagement, misdirection, and corruption, that God ordained wolf in sheep clothing Samuel Sarko to take Ambazonians into the wilderness. Finally, a top-level delegation of the Ambazonian Recognition and Collaboration Council, ARC, has been on a working visit in a couple of African countries. The follow-up working visit is part of the ongoing internalization efforts of the revolution by the Council. You are listening to Ambazonia Calling, your space for educated news analysis, informed opinions, and commentary towards the recognition of a free, independent Ambazonia. I am Innocentia. Stay with us.
My name is Alex Mbianda. Please join me in obtaining an injunction order on these IG people who've squandered all the monies that were meant to take care of our refugees and prosecute the war that Paul Biya brought onto us. I'm calling on all Southern Cameroonians of good faith to join me by Monday so that we can obtain an urgent injunction order on these thieves who've embezzled all the monies that were meant to take care of our refugees and our internally displaced people. Please send me an urgent email at this address: anbianda@yahoo.com, anbianda@yahoo.com, or a quick text to 781-859-9878, 781-859-9878, or a quick WhatsApp to the same number. Thank you, and I hope to hear from you so that by Monday afternoon we should have an injunction order in place so we can get some of these monies and start helping our refugees that are on the street and our internally displaced persons. Thank you.
Willie Brotherday has got a roll call of how the gimmicks rolling in the money into the IG group have worked, how they've been conceived, and how someone like Comrade Sarko has rolled them out one after the other and scandalizing everyone. Here is Willie Brotherday.
When Comrade Samuel Sarko came up with a gimmick called My Trip to BOYO and called for the mobilization of $2 million, stating that raising such an amount will be tantamount to taking Ambazonians to BOYO in 3 short months. Far too many Ambazonians opened up their wallets and purses and sprayed cash at the con artists. They did so without so much as asking, how will Sarko do it? What viable plan of action has he outlined? How he will do that? And so on and so forth. Trusting Sarko to get you to BOYO if you give him the right amount of money is the church equivalent of trusting your pastor, priest, or imam to get you to heaven once you raise the $2 million he or she is asking for during offertory. Sarko told Ambazonians that $2 million is the truth, the light, and the way to BOYO, and far too many fell for the scam. When funds started to dry up, he invented county by county, saying that the funds raised this time would be managed at the county level with 20% remitted to his IG group, all without ever boarding the famous trip to BOYO. Followers obediently executed the new orders of this upgraded Ponzi scheme with religious fervor. Last Friday, he showed that he would not run and hide in the face of damaging revelations from a leaked audio report. Instead of recoiling in shame, he came up with another scheme called the Return Sisiku to Nigeria Fund, using an approach employed by fake pastors to prey on the emotions of their flock, capitalizing on some event in their lives. The new racket may already be loaded with cash, even as we speak these words. And despite the leaked internal audit showing that most of the money collected over the last 15 months was used to finance the lifestyle of FAKO and other bogus expenses, with little to absolutely nothing making it to ground zero. This is Willibrod Ade for Ambazonia Calling.
Restoration train is going to the mountains. Restoration train is going to Bamenda. Restoration train is going on to BOYO on the restoration journey of our liberty. Restoration train is moving very steadily. Restoration train is hooting very loudly. Restoration train to carry everybody on the restoration journey of our liberty.
The 1964 Cairo Declaration on African Borders, reaffirmed in Article 4B of the Constitutive Act of the African Union, however, and signed off by the President of Cameroon, makes clear that demarcation of the territory of each African state is recognized as being such on the date of its independence. Does the United Kingdom government accept this to be the case, or not? Has there been subsequent declarations that nullify these issues on borders? If not, it would follow that French Cameroon and Ambazonia are both able to assert territorial integrity. At no time before or after its independence from France was the southern Cameroons part of that country known by its French name and style as La République du Cameroun.
So, restoration train is Ambazonian train. Whoa. Restoration, restoration train. Whoa. Restoration, restoration train. Whoa. Restoration, restoration, restoration train is going to the border.
Tired people, they seem somehow anxious to just get back under some kind of government. Hardly have they undone the shackles of tyranny under Mr. Biya than they're looking around for any kind of government, even going to the extent of falling from the fry pan to the fire. Here is Barrister Manjong Jutambe.
If the silence of Ambazonians is not the curse of this revolution, tell me what is. In the face of all sorts of criminal wrongdoings, crookery, political scamming and shenanigans, even in the face of the Kaduna and Zaria mafia combined with self-declared governments and open thievery from the treasury of the revolution, our people have been embarrassingly silent. Those of us who have screamed out have been labeled power mongers or told time without number to let sleeping dogs lie. Ambazonians refuse to be outraged by the Kaduna Zaria mafia that birthed the interim government group, excluding other liberation movements from the fold, even banning them, going after self-defense units of other groups, all while pocketing the funds contributed for Ground Zero. The audit papers disseminated this week show that even leaders for whom some Ambazonians would like to see canonized, people like Siseko Julius Ayuktabe, are caught with their fingers in the cookie jar. No one should be surprised. After all, did Siseko Julius Ayuktabe not refuse to act on the audit report that found Milan Atam tapping into funds directed to the Scapac treasury? What is more criminal in this revolution than to swindle or at best waste funds contributed by our people? What can be more criminal than to be wasting funds on people in the diaspora while young men and women bearing rubber and den guns die like flies daily on Ground Zero? What is more criminal than to set up and recruit into armed wings with no intention to direct funds to achieve the goals of any armed resistance? If we ever doubted it, the very people whom Ambazonians claim to have the interests of their revolution at heart are stealing in broad daylight from the revolution like church rats. Even more than the Biya regime and its occupation forces, the enemies of our revolution are hiding in plain sight. They are all those who are listed in the half-baked audit report, who've lined their pockets instead of funding this revolution on ground zero. Those rogues within the IG group who are stealing from the people's treasury must be told that a day of reckoning is coming. This is Manjum Jude Ambe for Ambazonia Calling.
Welcome to our special interview segment, The Devil Unmasked, The Truth Out.
We've heard from so many of you about how much you miss Professor Emmanuel Tetament and The Devil Unmasked. He sends you love. He's still out on sabbatical. We are absolutely thrilled that everyone who's coming to do a long-form interview, whether it's Princess Harriet Fomenki or it's our producer here, Jeff McCoy, last week, we think they've done just a terrific job. Some of you have even asked for a rebroadcast of some of these interviews. They're up on the web. You can listen to them at your leisure. They're available at africafreedomnetwork.com. Today we welcome Digimas to Ambazonia Calling. Welcome, Digimas.
Thank you for having me on the Ambazonia Calling Senior Comrade Ntumfoyn. I want to thank the entire team of Ambazonia Calling and African Freedom Network for creating such a wonderful platform devoted to our struggle.
Let me begin with perhaps the only simple question I'm going to ask you during this show. Do you want to be referred by another name other than Digimas?
Digimas is one of my three names, and I am quite comfortable with it.
Now, you have said before that the IG group, as far as you are concerned, is a house built on a faulty foundation. It is one that is infested with asbestos. What do you think has happened to that house?
Oh yes, the good book says that a house built on sand cannot stand. The IG was built on a colossal gangsterism, gigantic duplicity, and incessant treachery.
So basically a con man's work.
Yeah, of course, yeah. There's no way that we expect anything from the IG. The foundation was flawed, and nothing can come out of it.
On the issues of the foundation of that house, we are not blaming only FAKO for not fixing the foundation. We are blaming also those who set the foundation, which will include Seseko.
Oh yes, you see, they can complain, they can lie. Some can blame it on FAKO, but Senior Comrade Ntumfoyn, if a righteous man or a woman found themselves inside an occult party, the right thing to do is always to jump out and run away without looking backwards. They cannot sit there partying and claiming that they are not club members. After the third conclave, the IG was left with nothing but a bunch of deplorable malign plungers.
This week, we saw a partial audit report. It is internal. Still, it showed us a scandalous level of wasteful spending, open sky swindling, conflict of interest, insider trading, and what have you.
What can I say? When you already know that there are rats around your barn, but you ignorantly save your groundnuts for the next planting season and going to take the seeds, you're hoping that you might get about 60%. But what it happens that the rat had impious appetite like that of FAKO Ecomerce IG. You will still shed tears despite having foreknowledge of their criminal propensity. Reading that report really devastated my solar plexus and kept me completely shattered.
It must mean for all of us who live so far away and to some degree in some comfort, we should say, compared to our people who are sheltering in the bush, hiding in the forest, looking for safe haven in refugee camps, for those of them dying on ground zero trying to defend our people, this must be absolutely heartbreaking.
It is heartbreaking. I mean, just picture the video image footage that we saw yesterday or 2 days ago with 3 years children, 2 years children walking with their parents, climbing a mountain to go and hide hide from the La Republique terrorists. With all this money that they've swindled, this money would have provided something to defend our homeland. Those children would have been protected by their parents. We did not see their fathers. Probably their fathers are all dead.
Have we been busy unmasking the devil in La Republique when we have not done enough work to unmask the devil in-house?
Yes, I think Ambazonian Calling has really, what can I say there? I just want to say Ambazonian Calling has been busy on unmasking the devil in the Satanic Republic of Cameroon while playing civil to our in-house impostors, spies, and tattletale Ambazonians pretending to be for the revolution. I think Ambazonian Calling need to focus at home now and inside house and start actually handling the crooks that we have.
We saw some really scandalous numbers. They look like over $100,000 for any one of the top officials, whereas Comrade Sako, Tabenyang, Anu. We saw figures over 100,000 for HSS. We saw Homeland Security sitting in over $500,000. That's the kind of money that could have made a great difference on ground zero.
Indeed, yes. I mean, if you gave just probably 1/3 of that money to frontline leaders, they would have provided something to our fighters. And I believe that we would have liberated our land. I must say that to find Tabenyang of all, you already know who Sako is. You know who Chris Ano is. But that Tabenyang all would be involved in this chicanery was a big shocker to me. I will not be surprised tomorrow if we hear him bearing a popular title, Man of God, which almost all the cheats wear as a crown in broad daylight.
Were you also surprised that we saw something in the neighborhood of $40,000 named against Siseko and Barrister Yambe?
Siseko and Sako are two sides of the same coin. Siseko Ayok Tabe was given a post of responsibility in Bread and Sardine Republic of Cameroon to oversee a construction of a hydroelectricity dam in the North Province, and he swindled the money and bribed Mebengo to smuggle him into Nigeria, where he lived until handed himself back to the Satanic Republic of Cameroon. Sako Ekome crumbled a microfinancing bank under his management and escaped to America. A logical conclusion is that both miscreants have entered a plea bargain with the Satanic Republic of Cameroon to thwart our revolution in exchange for no charge against them.
You have also pointed out, and to your credit, you have unmasked Sako to the extent possible. You have pointed out that to the best of your knowledge, you don't know because he doesn't list any particular field or faculty that he studied at the University of BOYO, supposedly where he went to school.
Yes, Sako has got no track record of studying anywhere. Sako told Mark Barra about his education up to Prairie High School, but he did not. I don't remember if he said BOYO University, but did not mention the year he went to BOYO University. So Sako has got just no track record about higher education.
He mentions journalism and mentions a PhD, and you say all of these are con degrees.
Sako has not got a PhD. Sako has never defended a PhD anywhere on planet Earth. Sako's PhD actually is not academic. It is rather a doctor of famine. There is no university matriculation number for him, even at the undergraduate level. His doctor is not academic. It's rather a Feynman doctorate.
You have also mentioned in part of the information that you put forward to Ambazonians the fact that he ran an NGO called KUPE International that was supposed to replace the International Red Cross, and that to some extent may have dabbled in human trafficking.
Yes, look, Sako Ekome is a con man. He robbed a bank called Rural Financing, frustrated shareholders. Some of them committed suicide, and some switched from being faithful Pentecostal Christians to becoming Anaglaubige. Sako used a false NGO called KUPE Cameroon as a vehicle for pilfering hoodwinking money from jobless young men and women, including students, taking between 300,000 CFA to 1 million from each of his victims. Some committed suicide. Some families split up as a result of Sako's thievery. Sako Ekome, in addition to hoodwinking jobless people and job seekers and students, Sako Samuel made young girls to study Arabic language online, but to pay him 300,000 francs to access the course. And upon completion, Sako would sign a certificate with his name, Reverend Dr. Ekome Samuel Sako, Educational Director for KUPE, Cameroon. I have seen and read some of them certificates, as I can guarantee you, duly signed by Sako. His victims would again pay him additional 300,000 francs, and he will take them to work. He promised to take them to work for KUPE outside Cameroon, which, according to his scam, had replaced the Red Cross in the entire world. Before traveling to the U.S., he shuttled about 50 young girls through Central African Republic who ended up in the Arab world. They are all missing on planet Earth. You cannot trace them, except about 2 of them that are in Saudi Arabia and Dubai.
This is all frightening stuff, and I know that you have indicated previously that you are willing to face, criminal libel or whatever libel charges that he may want to press against you because you have researched this information to the letter. Were you surprised that as soon as this report came out showing this kind of level of malfeasance, that immediately there was a shuffling of the seat on the Titanic, as it were, to try and move to a different kind of accounting that will kick some people off?
Actually, what he was doing, he was not trying to kick anyone off. He wanted to shred every evidence, the traces of any money that had been collected or spent or anything. That is why he ordered that they were going to close all accounts and start new accounts. And if they did close the account, or if they succeed to close the account, then nothing will be like proof for Ambazonians to show that he took money from them. But my advice is, if there's any Ambazonian that donated, they should keep the receipt, they should keep where they donated, because even if you close the account and close everything, if it comes to investigation, the bank will produce soft copies.
You mentioned at one time in one of the revelations you were making that when he found success, he wore a perfume with a name One Man Show. Are we about to see a one-man show at the IG group?
Right. The one-man show was perfume that Sako, whenever Sako comes to close to money, he gets expensive things. One-man show was a perfume that he was putting on him and proving himself to be big boss and around. But the one-man show in the IG now, I think any game that the IG is playing is their game, is in-house game. They can come out and cry foul about Sako, and then they'll turn around and bring someone else to please us. But they are the same people. The IG has got a ruling body. Sako is under a body called Revolutionary Council. That council is headed by Milan Atam. And the president or interim president, whatever thing they call, is answerable to them. In one video or audio video that you might have seen circulating, Milan was talking to the people in there. Whoever leaked it, I don't know, for God's sake. Milan was addressing them as Ngumba House. That is the house that has been running the show. That's the one-man show of the revolution.
Amazing. But this is what we know for all those who are genuine fighters for this revolution, all the people determined to make sure that our people go through no more indignity at the hands of La République, and that we see independence, and that we get recognized and be provided international sovereignty as a people. For the rest of us, what our interest is, despite the pain of seeing this swindling of money happen, what our interest is now is to see how to take our revolution forward. What would be your advice with respect to the way forward?
I would recommend that those frontline groups that congregated in Nigeria at the first and second conclaves, must come together, this time bringing into them the Southern Cameroon's Women Group, the BSCLM, that is British Southern Cameroon's Liberation Movement of General RK, the Tiger One of Comrade Achua Martin, and the IG. So each group must send 3 delegates and not more or less. Groups that have both diplomatic and self-defense arms must ensure that 2 of their members come from diplomatic and the 1 from self-defense. At their meeting, they will draft, agree, and vote on a memorandum of understanding, create an Ambazonian Revolutionary Authority without a single individual heading it, and in future, anything to do with signature must be signed by all 11-member group leaders. That is my recommendation.
What can you say to our people at home who must be feeling this pain in a particularly difficult way?
I would first of all appreciate their enormous resilience and sacrifices against the genocidal onslaught by the Satanic Republic of Cameroon. I would want to tell them that they should stay strong in faith and hope, trusting firmly in God in whatever form they conceive Him, and always solicit the spirit of our ancestors to guide and protect them. Victory is ours, and victory is around the corner.
What would you tell our Amber boys and girls, the real people who are standing up, defending our people in the face of whatever machinery of death that Mr. Bier brings to them?
I'll bluntly tell them to stay away from IG-connected persons, caution those that are easily convinced by John Egewan's sweet promise of pay them, that we are fighting a survival war, not an opportunity to gain employment. We must first survive, and then job creation and provision shall follow after the war is all over. I will also take this opportunity to refer Mr. John Egewan, who claims to be a pastor, to go read the story of Ananias and Sapphira and his wife Sapphira in the Bible.
That will be valid for all pastors and all Christians. Everyone, please read that for our education. As a legal mind, you particularly, Digimas, what would you say to individual Ambazonians who contributed to this, my trip to BOYO, and are seeing this swindling? Should they take collective action? Should they push for justice? Because our people would need these resources.
The money that Sako Ekome and his team collected was collected on the platform of community use. And so in any legal system, that especially in the West, anybody that donated that money has the right to go to court and sue them, because what we've seen, we've got evidence. The part, whether we call it part balance sheet or part whatever thing record that we've seen, it is evidence enough that they have misused the money. So anyone that contributed can go to any jurisdiction where they contributed and file a lawsuit against them.
No, thank you very much, Digimas. Let me say on behalf of the Ambazonia Calling team that we are absolutely full of admiration for what we call Inspector Digimas tapes that we hear all the time. Thank you very much. Just keep them coming. You are welcome to join this team, as we have said all the time. We are absolutely thrilled that you could do this interview, and we're afraid we ran out of time right now, so we may continue this conversation at some other time.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. My regards to everyone, every team member. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye now. Have a wonderful week.
Bye.
This thing will go on for 50 and 100 years. You cannot kill everybody. And even if you kill everybody, the stones would avenge for the blood that spills on them. The soil will get up and start fighting.
You have plenty of show yet to come, so don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
The people of West Cameroon cannot be your slaves. The people of West Cameroon are not, you did not conquer them in war. The problem we have in West Cameroon is the problem that will bring down Cameroon. When people have had pent-up anger and pain, humiliation for over 50 years. When it bursts out, you will never be able to control it.
They will sooner realize that the people of Ambazonia will not surrender. They will sooner realize that you can arrest and kill, but the more you arrest and kill, the more you energize the people's spirit.
There is great concern that the people of Ambazonia have been acting like somnambulists in their own revolution, sleepwalking through their walk to freedom. As Willie Brother Day warns, far too many have assumed the role of zombies.
The Ambazonian revolution is teetering dangerously on the edge of collapse, due in part to the shenanigans of La République du Cameroon, the lack of intellectual curiosity on the part of many Ambazonians, and the machinations of unscrupulous leaders who are exploiting the emotional fragility of our people for their personal benefit. This state of anomy begs the following question. Are Ambazonians trading slavery in La République du Cameroon for zombiehood in a yet-to-be-established country? The dictionary definition of a slave is a person entirely under the domination of some influence or person. As bad as that sounds, it is a little kind when you hear what a zombie is defined as. A willless and speechless human.
Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie, oh zombie. Zombie not go go unless you tell him to go. Zombie not go stop unless you tell him to stop. Zombie not.
Fela Ransom Kuti could have been describing Ambazonians in his 1976 hit song Zombie when you consider the mass hysteria that characterizes most of our actions. The rate at which our people are falling for the prestidigitations of conmen, peddling bogus schemes wrapped in quack benevolence or sham humanitarianism, but really meant to hoodwink the gullible, lends credence to the conclusion some have reached that Ambazonians under the Zaria Mafia IG group are in some advanced stage of zombification.
Zombie not go think unless you tell him to think. Zombie, oh zombie.
How else can one explain the cult-like behavior of surrogates worshipping at the altar of the teen gods of this revolution? It is as if some Ambazonians dropped off their brains at the door before entering the revolution, surrendering any obligation to trust only after you verify. Consequently, too many have proven incapable of making any rational or logical analysis, talk less of contributing any ideas that can advance the cause. It takes a zombified people to be contributing toward their own ruin. To be perfectly clear, zombification is not just the preserve of the supporters of the IG. That same toxin has transformed so many Ambazonians into mindless, willless Homo sapiens, or should I say, Homo zombies? Until Ambazonians snap out of this somnambulatory state we have been in for more than a year, stop the cult of personality along with groupthink and start putting Ambazonia first, we are not going to achieve the international recognition that we seek. The time has come to put our thinking caps back on so that we can start working together as supporters of the same revolution, not only as members of our favorite restoration group or as natives of a given county. After all, is that not what your contributing is there for? If we don't act fast, we will be consigning our people to permanent servitude under La République du Cameroon, and for those on ground zero, to even worse atrocities than they have already endured. It would be tragic if history were to record our generation of Ambazonians as the crop that put the final nail on the coffin of our recolonization.
Open your heart, stand the things, fall out, fall down, dead ready, attention, quick
This is Willibrod Ade for Ambazonia Calling.
If county by county and local government by local government works by way of a policy, we are seeing its effect already. It is about tribal politics. It is about helping your own people, fighting for your own people. In the midst of it, national pride dies and the national identity suffers. There is a lesson here from the Good Samaritan. It doesn't have to be one of yours. He is innocent here.
It has been agonizing, by the very least, watching some videos that are making the rounds of our social media homes. Particularly videos of wounded Ambazonians, some abandoned by the wayside with broken limbs, fresh gaping wounds, paws pregnant and infected sores. Video after video appeals are made to our better angels that we not abandon our own on the battlefield, even though there are many who have disappeared and we may never find out what happened, even though mass graves litter the land, even though dogs and flies have feasted on many and their bones left to dry off by the roadside. But these appeals for the Good Samaritan in every Ambazonian are seriously undermined and undercut by a tribal messaging that is a threat to the national coexistence of Ambazonia. For while some argue that such messages are effective at targeting who can help, for instance, from MEZAM, from BOYO, the danger and short-sightedness is apparent. Next thing, we will be asking to help only those from our quarter or neighborhood. Then we will seek to know which family they are from. Otherwise, they are out of luck and may as well rot in hell. No, every Ambazonian that has been hurt on the war front deserves to be helped and must be helped, without regard to what county they come from. All that matters is that they are an Ambazonian and have been hurt. It is a bankrupt policy that classifies differences amongst us instead of using such opportunities to show each other the common humanity that we share, especially that we are all Ambazonians, different from the land that we are running away from, where you are promoted first and foremost because you are Beti, where your retirement benefits are paid because you are Bulu, not because you contributed into the National Retirement Fund. We must run away from the divide and rule tactics of La République du Cameroon and instead embrace accountable structures wherein it is one for all and all for one. Innocentia, Ambazonia Calling.
Restoration, restoration, restoration train is going to the borders.
Ntumfoyn,
Restoration train is going straight to Kumba.
Ntumfoyn,
Restoration train is going on to Bali.
Ntumfoyn,
Restoration train is going to Victoria. Restoration train is going to Muyoka
and to Ekok.
We don't do foolish, but when there are capital fools out there, we make it our duty to find them, and every week we crown one of them the Nyamfuka of the Week.
It is usually difficult to determine who is in the running for the kings and queens of foolish every week. But on a week like this, when it looks like people were basically begging to be nominated and considered for the crown, Veronique Ntumfoyn has got a very unusual Nyamfuka of the Week report.
Where does one begin on a week like this? How is one to distinguish between the kings and queens of foolish when one has been hit with the kind of negative news we are reeling from this week? On an ordinary week, just one of the many actions reported against members of the same group this week would have automatically raised them to the summit of foolish. Ambazonia is now so deeply buried in financial scandal, even before we know the full details of the rot. It is hard to look elsewhere for anyone else to name to this crown of shame. This is what happens when too many shame-proof individuals, some of them wearing cassocks and laying claim to the title Man of God, convert fairmania into an art and raise embezzlement, scamming and a Ponzi scheme into a management style. There was no competition this week. Colonial Cameroon did its worst by chasing down Ambazonian IDPs in the bushes and forests. That is what Nyamfukas do. Surely we cannot waste the crown of shame on them as if they are not wearing the crown every day, every hour, every minute, and every second. Everyone else in the running for the crown of shame this week was outperformed, outpaced, outdone, outran, outsmarted, completely, taken to the cleaners and beaten à l'erutu by the interim government group, without even considering the shame and anger and outrage that consumes every Ambazonian. The IG group wins bronze, silver, and gold medal awards and becomes this week's one and only winners of the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week.
Nyamfuka them all.
This is Veronique Vertimfe for Ambazonia Calling.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Because you have your army of occupation out in West Cameroon, you believe that when the people will rise, even if you took the whole of the French army and added to yours, you will never bring them down.
And I call on all Cameroon soldiers to lay down their arms within Ambazonia and to turn their arms against the very system that has made them slaves in the land of their birth.
For more stories from around the world, go to the World Wide Web at themissionstribune.com, compassfreepress.com, and africafreedomnetwork.com.
Here is our letter to Joshua.
Dear Joshua, I got your request asking me to provide you with an update on where I think your colonial forces are with this recolonization and genocidal war that you and France are fighting in Ambazonia. I mean, if you wanted a progress report, this one should be called perhaps a lack of progress report, if it should not be called a regression report. First, just think of it. Ambazonia is at its weakest right now, with conmen at the helm, swindling funds meant for ground zero operations, providing zero assistance to our people on the ground. And yet our people, and this bears repeating, our Amber boys are doing every one of us proud. Just imagine what will happen once our revolution has its right mechanism in place and when we are able to provide for our Amber boys and Amber girls on ground zero, when the money is no longer swindled. If you were hoping to hear that Ambazonia has been crushed and that the spirit of independence has been killed and buried, I really have bad news for you. Ambazonia lives. The carnage, the savage executions, the daily massacres, the endless implementation of your scorched earth policies, the looting and burning of villages, the use of rape as an instrument of war, the endless slaughter of Amber boys, the horrors of burning the elderly in their homes have instead fired our people up. Hindsight is 2020, but if only you had listened to the honorable descendant of the warriors of Nso, MP Joseph Wilbur, if you had lent him an ear, when he warned that you would add the French and the Chinese armies to your own, and You will add on the Chadians, the Central Africans, and the Equatorial Guinean soldiers, as you already have now. And even with training from French genocidaires and American special forces under the pretext of training you to fight Boko Haram, no matter whose army you borrow to fight this war with, Ambazonia will prevail, Joshua. That is a certain outcome because it is the will of the people and the will of God. You cannot say as much of the criminal enterprise your annexationist republic and its imperial master, France, have embarked on. Please share this with France. Just tell them that the people of Ambazonia have asked me to tell Paris that if the war in Ambazonia seems very much like a war they have fought before, it is because it is exactly a war they have fought before. The war in Ambazonia is the Vietnam War all over again. Ambazonia is Vietnam 2.0. That is why your soldiers at the war front keep reporting back that Ambazonia is bound to be your Waterloo. Ask the colonial forces you send across the border into Ambazonia. Ask those of them who return to La République lucky to be alive and still willing to speak loud when they hear someone scream, even in a bar, Amba Boys, or say words like Watana Wata, or even more terrifying, where them day. Your dogs of war, and I mean those Ngong dogs of war that you have sent into Ambazonia, can tell you for themselves. They have never before seen a more determined force than the Amba Boys. Ask your colonial governor in Boya why he faked an attack on his convoy to avoid driving through Ekona and Muyuka battlefields en route to Kumba the other day. Ask your Minister of Sports why he went into panic mode last week in Boya when the joke was floated at the arrival point of the Mount Ambazonia race that Amba Boys were at the gates of the stadium. The one thing your occupation forces have successfully achieved is they have not found an elderly or mentally challenged person in Ambazonia that they have not executed or burned alive in their homes. They have not come across a young girl or a woman or even a child that they have not tried to rape. They have successfully caused them the pain of seeing their young sons, men, and husbands cut down in the prime of their lives, as at this scene in the southern zone this week, when our people cry, but express their determination to fight to the last man standing. The terror your troops have been visiting on Bui State in Ambazonia's northern zone led to girls, women, and the elderly women fleeing out of their village to the mountain tops and the depths of valleys and mountain caves for cover. Their voice, as the voice of this woman, filled not so much with terror as with anguish, filled with a determination to survive and a pledge to never give up. This lady leading a crowd out of one of the outskirts of Kumbo to a safe haven away from your marauding soldiers, they are ready for the next phase of this struggle. They are accepting the pain, the suffering, rather than bend over and accept the bondage of recolonization. The slaves are not coming back, Joshua. I do not expect you to understand how this is possible when citizens of La République cannot even show up in February to stage only the second round of peaceful protests called by Professor Maurice Kamto. You cannot understand why repression works on citizens of La République but does not work on Ambazonians. It is very easy to understand, Joshua. We are two people, two nations, two perfectly divided countries, formed from two distinctive trust territories, each of which obtained independence on its own date and within territorial boundaries that did not include the other. General Semenge gets it. That is why he held a long crisis meeting at military headquarters this week. He does not have to look too far. He needs just to recall what kind of a soldier General Tato is. The same blood that runs in the veins of General Tato runs in the veins of every Amba boy and girl. The war has just started, Joshua. Our people will stop fighting when we achieve justice, not peace, not some fake kind of settlement, not some fake kind of talking together. It will only come when the world recognizes and grants our people international sovereignty. You have been listening to Ambazonia Calling. We came to you from our studios here in Washington, D.C. Our producers today, Jeff McCoy, Logistics, Joe Costa, and Krista Cunningham. Our music is from Ken Wanaku, the monk, from Balikumato Fazukov himself, from William Ford, an Amba music star of blessed memory, from Eric Matisse on the web at soundimage.org, and from Prince Ajua Alem of Ajam, Sonicatron, USA. Ambazonia Calling is a joint production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. You can find us on the web at missionstribune.com, at compassfreepress.com, and at africafreedomnetwork.com. Next Sunday is another date. Until then, keep the spirit, keep the faith, keep up the good fight for justice and independence for Ambazonia. Stay Amba strong.